Thank you for joining Plain Pap Church for online service today. Please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly uploads.
I can tell you how I feel for you and all the things that I could do to show you the love I have is true. There are many words that I could say, some melodies that I'd like to play to show you the love I have is true. But my thoughts may change and my words, they'll pass, and only what I do is gonna last. And this will show you the love I have is true. The lonely runaway that has no place for his head to lay, who will show them that their love. The one who's lost a friend and feels the emptiness within. The pain they feel should be mine, so I've gotta take the time to let my light shine, and show the love of Jesus Christ. Love isn't love till you've given it away. It's just waiting to be given, all bitterness erased. By this you know that you're Christ's disciples. None else can take love's place. Love isn't love till you've given it away.
Sermon Preview.
Keep thy tongue from evil, which is based on Psalm 34, verses 12 and 13. Today we will hear part 2 of our Mother's Day sermon. We have scheduled to look at the speech of 2 women. At some point, both were mothers. They are our biblical examples for this Mother's Day. One, Abigail, is an example of positive speech and its blessed results, and the other, Mrs. Job, is an example of poisonous speech and its harm even to its speaker, so that this sermon can be called The Wise Tongue of the Miser's Wife and the Evil Tongue of the Rich Man's Spouse, or it can be called Mrs. King David and Mrs. Job. But the advice which it dispenses to mothers, and actually to all listeners, is this: keep thy tongue from speaking evil and thy lips from speaking guile. Let us enter the temple so as to receive the word.
Welcome to Testimony Time. Do you have a burning testimony that you want to give? Then please tell us what God has done for you by using the email listed on the screen. Do you have an offering, tithe, or donation that you would like to give Plain Path? Then please use the information on the screen to do so as well. For any further questions, please contact us via email or reach out to our church officials. One of our sisters writes in that her room is usually very humid, and her family had not installed air conditioning or fans yet because it wasn't the summertime. Although she was hot, she was afraid to open her window because bees sometimes came inside. She later discovered that there was a beehive nearby because one of her neighbor's wives found it and got stung. Our sister developed a fear of bees at a very young age because bees chased after her on days she wore perfume. One day, a bee chased her so persistently that she ran into a nearby building for shelter. For that reason, she hated wearing perfume. Unfortunately, however, our sister received a lot of perfume as gifts. Sometimes she wore the perfume because she was feeling guilty for not using her presents, but most of the times she kept the bottle stashed in the bottom of her drawers. Our sister was sad that she was not really able to wear her presents. She wondered why some people seemed to take a bath in perfume and did not have the same experience of bees trying to attack them. One day, our sister realized that she accumulated over 3 drawers full of unused perfume sets. She never used the perfume sets because bees made her fearful of enjoying her blessings. She realized that if she never used the blessings God gave her, one day her blessings will be passed to someone else without her ever enjoying them. She prayed for deliverance from fear and started wearing her perfume again. She hasn't been chased by bees lately. Praise God for deliverance, saints. God is giving us all blessings. Has the devil tried to attack you so fiercely that you cannot enjoy your blessings? Does the blessing that God gave you feel like a curse? Our sister's attack came from the bees. What is the source of your attack? Be free through the power of Jesus Christ and enjoy the blessings God has given you. Do you have a burning testimony that you want to give? Then please tell us what God has done for you by using the email listed on the screen. Do you have an offering, tithe, or donation that you would like to give Plain Path? Then please use the information on the screen to do so as well. For any further questions, please contact us via email or reach out to our church officials. Now it is time for the sermon.
The wise tongue of the miser's wife and the evil tongue of the rich man's spouse, or Mrs. King David and Mrs. Job. The sermon's original title was Mama, Keep Thy Tongue from Speaking Evil. Last Sunday, we spoke of the fact that it is wise for people to keep their tongues from speaking evil. Since it was Mother's Day, mothers were addressed in particular, but that part of the message is not really gender specific. However, for today, we promised to look at 2 women who are our biblical examples, Abigail and Mrs. Job, so that this sermon could be entitled, The Wise Tongue of the Miser's Wife and the Evil Tongue of the Rich Man's Spouse, or it could be called, Mrs. King David and Mrs. Job. Anyhow, let us begin today's second segment, and let us look at Abigail. Although King David was one of the personages of the Old Testament who had several wives at one time, we of course do not practice that custom. At the time when Abigail advised David with wisdom, her homestead was established while he was a dweller in caves, and she was the wife of an ill-bred husband. However, I see no record of her being a mother while she was married to Nabal. But the wisdom with which Abigail spoke directed her away from the doom which was Nabal's, her then husband's destiny for insulting David, the man of a bright future, and elevated Abigail to subsequently become the wife of David and the mother of one of the children of that second king of Israel, that man who became the nation's most prominent human king and a progenitor of the King of Kings. Mama, keep thy tongue from speaking evil and thy lips from speaking guile. King Saul's anointed successor, David, was on the run from his persecutor, Saul, and asked for food for himself and his fighting men. But Nabal, Abigail's then husband, answered him so churlishly that David was provoked to cut Nabal and his men off from the land of the living. However, Abigail intervened wisely by quietly gathering together provisions for David and herself, delivering them, and speaking with such wisdom that his anger abated. And David held it in mind as a remarkable deed that Abigail's advice prevented him from staining his hands with the blood of a foolish opposer. When Abigail demonstrated that wisdom of words which turned the wrath of David away from her household, she appeased his righteous anger and thus found favor with him and with God. As fate would have it, when Nabal realized what had been determined to be his reward for his churlishness, had not his wife intervened, he became literally scared to death and gave up the ghost. Afterward, David took Abigail to become his wife, and she, who was a momentary widow and yet was a woman of wise words, became a mother, all because her uttered words and the meditations of her heart were accepted in the sight of both the anointed leader and the Lord of hosts. Mama, keep thy tongue from speaking evil. The second woman whom we are looking at the example of for Mother's Day is Mrs. Job. She was the wife of Job, and evidently the mother of his 10 children, who were all killed in one day. Part of Job's flocks were rustled as well. Others were burnt with fire, which seemed to have fallen from heaven. Some might believe that when Mrs. Job dispensed her particular advice to her husband, she was speaking out of the anguish of her loss of her 10 children. I don't know how you would interpret her unwise advice to him to curse God and die, whether or not you would give her a pass for having been recently bereft of her children, but I do know that history has not looked upon her fondly. In addition, her husband's response to her was that she was speaking like a foolish woman, and he chose to honor God and stay the course. In the end, he kept to his resolve not to curse God or to charge him foolishly, and as a result, he closed that Bible book which bears his name, having double of practically all which he had owned in the beginning. Today, in honor of fantastic mothers across the course of time, we offer you the shining example of Mrs. King David. And as an example of how not to be, we offer you the example of Mrs. Job. Remember again that this is not an indictment of people of one gender, because the same material could be preached on Father's Day while using males from the Bible as examples of good or bad speech. But then if we were to look around us, we would probably recognize that the Bible and our culture recommend that we males or fathers especially need to correct other things about our natures, like the tendencies some have not to be there for their children. The crux of today's message, however, is about working to gain one's blessing by allowing the words of his mouth and the meditations of his heart to be accepted in the sight of the Lord. What individual is he who desireth life and loveth many days, that he may see good? Keep thy tongue from evil and thy lips from speaking guile. Mama, keep thy tongue from speaking evil and thy lips from speaking guile. Mrs. King David and Mrs. Job.
Thank you for joining Plain Pap Church for online service. If you enjoyed the word today, don't forget to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We hope that you have a blessed week, saints. Until next time.